but one institution stands out for both its global scale and its lasting legacy.
Numbers involved in the Atlantic slave trade are truly staggering. From 1500 to 1880 CE, somewhere between 10 and 12 million African slaves were forcibly moved from Africa to the Americas, and about 15% of those people died during the journey.
The majority of enslaved Africans were taken from 6 primary regions: Senegambia, Sierra Leone and the Windward Coast, the Gold Coast, the Bight of Benin, the Bight of Biafra, and West Central Africa, also known as Congo and Angola. An estimated 12.4 million people were loaded onto slave ships and carried through what became known as the Middle Passage, which moved across the Atlantic and included many different destinations.
Once in the Americas, the surviving slaves were sold at a market very similar to the way cattle would be sold. After purchase, slave owners would often brand their new possession on the cheeks, again, just as they would do with cattle. The lives of slaves were dominated by work and terror.
The idea that I am not human, that I have no soul, that I am a beast. Brand me, burn me, whatever, and no recourse, nothing.
The shadows of history linger in the present, shaping the contours of our society and economy. In this documentary, we uncovered the legacies of 13 companies that profited from the inhuman trade of slavery and explored the ongoing debate over reparations. From the 16th to the 19th century, millions of Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic, destined for lives of bondage in the Americas. This transatlantic slave trade was a cornerstone of the global economy, fueling the rise of industries and fortunes. The economic impact was staggering, with entire sectors of the economy reliant on the exploitation of enslaved people. Our journey begins with Aetna, a company that issued insurance policies on enslaved people. These policies treated human lives as mere property, to be insured against loss or damage. Next, we have J.P. Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in the world today, has roots that include accepting enslaved people as collateral for loans. This financial practice directly tied the bank's success to the institution of slavery. New York Life also participated by selling insurance policies on enslaved people, further embedding slavery into the financial fabric of American society. Wachovia, now part of Wells Fargo, not only owned but traded enslaved people, reaping significant profits from their exploitation. Brooks Brothers, a name synonymous with American fashion, supplied clothing to slave owners and plantations, profiting from the apparel needs of a brutal system. Lehman Brothers, deeply involved in the cotton trade, relied heavily on the labor of enslaved people, intertwining their fortunes with the slave-driven economy. Norfolk Southern built and operated railroads with the labor of enslaved people, contributing to the expansion of America's transportation infrastructure at a great human cost. The New York Tribune, now part of USA Today, defended slavery in its publications and owned enslaved people, shaping public opinion in favor of the status quo. CSX, like Norfolk Southern, used enslaved labor for building railroads, a practice that propelled their early success and expansion. The Canadian National Railway also benefited from the exploitation of enslaved labor, using it for construction projects that laid the foundation for modern transportation networks. Fleet Boston, now part of Bank of America, financed the slave trade and owned enslaved people, integrating slavery into the core of their business model. Brown Brothers Harriman profited from the cotton trade and slave insurance, their fortunes built on the backs of enslaved people. Barclays provided loans to slaveholders, directly financing the perpetuation of slavery and benefiting from its profits. These companies' profits fueled their growth and in turn the broader economy. The legacy of slavery has left deep scars, evident in the persistent economic disparities and social inequalities we see today. The debate over reparations is complex and multifaceted. Calculating what these companies owe involves examining historical profits, present-day impacts, and ethical considerations. Today, these companies grapple with their historical ties to slavery. Some have taken steps to address their past through apologies and donations, while others remain silent. The question of corporate responsibility continues to resonate as society demands accountability and justice. The journey through history reveals not just the dark past of slavery, but the intricate web of connections that tie the present to those shadows. As society grapples with the question of reparations, one thing is clear. Understanding our history is essential to shaping a more just future.